Aloha, everyone. Aloha mai kakou. Aloha. Well, this is Hilo. Love it, Hilo. There's nowhere else in the world like Hilo, even on a rainy day. So good to see you, everyone. And many of you have become friends of the Grassroot Institute since we've been coming. And it's like coming home. And just being able to be with you and bring like minds together is such a wonderful thing. I'm Kali'i Akina, president of Grassroot Institute, and I'm with some of my team today. And we're just tremendously honored to have you with us. And thank you, those of you who are members of the Grassroot Institute and supporters, and those of you who are here for the first time. There was a buzz around the table when we were having lunch. And as you know, of course, in a couple days, it's Halloween. It's a time for ghost stories and horror stories. But the horror stories I heard around the table here were about permitting. Now, just think about that. When did that become an interesting topic? If I hear a horror story today from someone, it's likely to be about permitting or the permitting department. Nobody across the country talks about the permitting department. It's kind of just back there in the back office. Here, it's the talk of the town. In Honolulu, things got so bad for an acting company, a theater company. When they tried to move their theater, they couldn't do it. And they went through this 4-year-long period just to get a permit to do something very simple. As a result, they wrote a play and put it on, and it became the smash hit in Honolulu. People from Honolulu on their weekend, hey honey, let's go see a play. About what? The Department of Planning and Permits? You know, something's got to be wrong here. And that's the sad truth about why we're gathered here today. Something is wrong. The stories are coming out that are nightmarish about people who discover they have to tear down their house and move it. People who discover that they made an investment that's just going to sink because they can't get the permits. And we're coming together to commiserate, but do more than that. And that is to solve this problem. Shall we band together and solve this problem? Absolutely. And I think there's a vibrance here in Hilo. And you've been so open to the Grassroot Institute. This was a great year with your support on the state level and on the county levels for our work. The team at the Grassroot Institute was responsible for the passing of 14 bills into law at the legislature and at the county councils. That's terrific. That's a winning record in terms of an advocacy group. Give them a hand. These laws include the biggest tax cut in the history of the state of Hawaii. Do people deserve a tax cut? Absolutely. They include regulations being dismantled that prevented housing. For example, now statewide it is legal to convert business property into residential units or to increase the number of ADUs. Now, this is where Big Island comes in big time. We only went to the state legislature to get 2 ADUs per property, but you guys, give yourselves a hand, you went for 3. And I applaud that spirit, and we're going to be with you as you try to work out the kinks of doing that. But things are happening. Things are changing. It's not a time to be in despair. We have some of the biggest problems around when it comes to housing, particularly the fact that our young people, for that matter, people of all ages, but our young people can't afford to build their futures in Hawaii. Hawaii now has one of the fastest rates of exodus. People who lived here for generations, their families, but now are calling Las Vegas home or Houston home. And the number one reason they're doing that is because of the availability and affordability of housing in those markets out there. Otherwise, they'd be here for the beautiful weather, the people, the culture. Hawaii can't be beat. So this problem is big because it's driving our people away. They're voting with their feet. That's why at the Grassroots Institute, we're committed to doing something about this. We're committed to making a difference for the people of Hawaii. And I just can't tell you how much we appreciate our friends here on the Big Island. You help us to have a family here where we can actually find partners and solve the problems that people are facing. Grassroots Institute is simply a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We care a lot about the important principles of our Declaration of Independence. We believe that they are alive and well, and we have to protect them. But one principle is individual liberty. Do you value your individual liberty, your freedom to do what you want to do? The second principle is economic freedom, which means the right of a business or an individual to have transactions with another one without the government taxing it, interfering with it, having to overregulate it, and so forth. We need more of that economic freedom, don't we? Absolutely. And third, limited accountable government. We have to have government. It's necessary for so much that we do, but it's got to be limited to the purposes of the Constitution. It's got to be accountable to the people. That's so very important. If there's one group that exists to protect these things, individual liberty, economic freedom, and limited accountable government, it's the Grassroots Institute. But it's not us on the staff or on the board. It's all of us together. All of us who are working together, who are going to give testimony at county councils, who are contributing financially to the movement, who are serving on our board of directors. Well, there's one gentleman who's here today, came from Oahu on our board of directors. Many of you know him. He does a lot of work out here on this island. Freddie Noah. Freddie. We have 9 full-time staff and 9 part-time staff. And today, we have a gift for you. We want you to take something that is hot off the presses, that's going to every state legislator and our county council members. It summarizes our agenda for being able to solve the permitting problem in Hawaii. And you're going to get a peek into this from 2 of our experts on staff who work very closely with state governing leaders. We have, before I introduce them, our Director of Finance. You met him at the door, Sean Mitsui. Sean, thank you so much. Ted Kefalis is our Director of Strategic Campaigns. He handles our work with state legislators and with county council people. He has been in the doors, inside the offices and in private with more state government leaders than anyone I know. And he gets results. I think he's got dirt on him, but but if you need to know anything about anyone in government, Ted knows. But Ted uses that knowledge in order to advance our principles and to make sure that we, the people, have a voice in government. Ted Kefalis. Your second presenter today is Joe Kent, who I met when he was a teacher on the island of Maui. He worked at a school that got burnt down and is no longer in Lahaina. I say this because Joe really knows the neighbor islands. He grew up here on the Big Island part of the time, and his family is still here. Joe is a master at understanding the public policy that government practices. And being able to analyze that and organize that into ways that we can communicate with people is at the heart of what we do at Grassroots Institute. He's the Executive Vice President. Give Joe Kent a hand. I'm going to step away from the microphone for a little bit, but I'm going to come back and invite you to come up to the microphone, not to ask questions, although you can ask questions if you want. But we came here to hear from you. We want to hear your horror story, or maybe your success story, or maybe your biggest concern, or maybe your biggest suggestion as to how we can solve this permitting problem. So if you have an idea, do two things for me. One, kind of make note of it, jot it down so you know what you're going to talk about. Number two, make it short. I have a plane to catch. And look around the room, actually. This is why. We've got a lot to share. Many people here. We'd just love to hear as many of you as we can today. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our presenters for the Grassroots Institute as we today share with you 7 low-cost ways to speed up permitting in Hawaii. Thank you.
Thank you, KDE. And how about a round of applause for KDE? So a big credit goes to a researcher named Jonathan Helton on our staff. Let me rewind here to go to his right. Let's see. Oh, it doesn't. Anyway, Jonathan Helton right here. He's not here today, but he did a lot of the work on this. And what we're going to do right now is go through all of the different recommendations in the report quickly, because we do want to get to your stories and everything. But I'll just start by saying that there are plenty of audits of the permitting departments across the counties. They've looked at it, but lawmakers are not experts when it comes to building and permitting and so on. And they rely on the bureaucrats to tell them, how do we quicken the process? And what the bureaucrats say is, we need more staff, right? We need more money, we need more staff. They never think to say, we need to get rid of this regulation or that regulation. Because for a bureaucrat, regulations are fixed, immovable cement structures within their world. And so they will never come up with creative, outside of the box things. So we need some entity out there to suggest cutting, reforming, creative outside of the box, outside of the state. So we went to the mainland. We looked across the nation at all the different best practices from different permitting departments who were laughing at us, by the way, at how long it takes. There was actually a study done by the University of Hawaii, and they showed that Hawaii has the slowest permitting departments in the entire nation. And so we're here today to come up to show you what we found. And the first one here is allowing pre-approved plans. So Ted, maybe you can start with that. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I would stand up, Joe, but I think my cord
is your cord stuck? Okay.
Yeah, so...
Grab the table right there.
Here, take this one.
All right.
I'll get it done. All right, here. Go ahead.
So pre-approved plans, I mean, they're pretty basic. It's pretty much what they sound like, right? I mean, we have a set of plans that are approved and can move through the process a lot quicker because you don't have to get that discretionary approval previously. I talked, a lot of you guys know Dennis here from HPM. HPM uses pre-approved plans, probably they're one of the biggest users of pre-approved plans just to expedite the process. The county actually has taken the lead when it comes to all 4 counties in the state in actually trying to make it easier for pre-approved plans. So they passed, I believe it's Bill 152 this year. That's going to allow multifamily dwellings to allow to have pre-approved plans here in Hawaii County.
Is that good for you?
I have to go back and check. I don't think it is yet, just as they figure out all of the rigmarole. But that's going to be crucial. We've seen that's really helped expedite the production of single-family homes and duplexes. So let's try to expand that to multifamily. It makes no sense if there are already current plans out there to have people go through the process every single time and check off every single box if we already know that these are already okay. I also want to just point out that I've talked to a lot of architects, and as some of you guys know, we were crucial in passing the state ADU bill. We've worked with council as well here to pass Bill 123. A lot of architects, quite frankly, have told me that building plans for ADUs are money losers, and that they would prefer to have these sorts of pre-approved plans so that they don't have to consistently draw up a plan for every single person that wants an ADU, that they can just do it once, put it on the shelf, and anybody that wants to build an ADU here in the county can just pull it off the shelf and get started. So, I mean, we think that this is a great way that the county is really expanding those opportunities, and we'd love to see the other counties follow suit.
I hope.
Yeah. As for the next suggestion here, exempting basic home repairs. This is something you could have thought of in your sleep. Basically, why do we require so many things to be permitted? Something like a simple home repair should be exempt. But if you look at all of the different counties, each county does, in fact, exempt a whole list of things, 30 different items that do not need to be permitted, except that list is different for every county. So what we thought, why not just take all the lists of all the counties and add them all up together to make one bigger list. Some counties, for example, require fences to be permitted. Other counties don't. Why? And you could put a cap on it too. Say something less than 10,000, 20,000. Raise the cap, and then you don't have to permit so many things. This is kind of a common sense one. In Honolulu, they tried this with Bill 56, and Ted, maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, Bill 56 it was a good bill, but I want to actually, since we're here in Hawaii Island, I want to focus on a bill that's going through the process right now. I think it's Bill 212 from Ashley Kirkowitz. Essentially, that's looking to expand that exemption up from 7,500, which, as you can see, is really the lowest right now, expanding that up to 25K. We think that could be really crucial. I mean, you think about it, you have X number of people waiting in line. If we can just pull some of those people out of line, I mean, that's going to help make everybody's experience a little bit better. That's something too, when we looked into it, Home Depot and whatnot, they've actually estimated that things as basic as like a counter install, like kitchen counter install, could run you more than $7,500. So, this is something that kind of is again, as Joe mentioned, a no-brainer, and it's just something that we need to really push and take into fruition now.
Yeah. Another one is streamlining solar. So we went and looked and counted all the different permits that are in the queue, and about 1/3 to nearly a half of all the permits are solar related. So why not just create some sort of fast track method for these? And in fact, there does exist a fast track method. It's called APP Plus or App Plus. Solar App Plus. And on the mainland, what this has done, where states have instituted this, it's reduced the permitting wait times from 30 days down to 0 days. Now, on Hawaii County, I'm told that some of the permitting wait times for solar were around 2 weeks, 3 weeks when EPIC first started, EPIC, the permitting system here. But now it's going to 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. What's going on in the permitting department? I thought this was getting quicker. So there was actually a bill at the state legislature this year, that would have allowed for the Solar App Plus permitting process to be instituted in all the counties, basically zapping all those solar permits, but it died, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, essentially what Joe is getting at, right, is we're in the year 2024, going into 2025, and a lot of these permitting processes are done. You'd be surprised at how many things are still done on paper, quite honestly. There are systems out there like Solar App. It doesn't have to be Solar App. There's other competitors out there that do similar things. The process is all online. Makes it super easy for anybody that's looking to get a permit. Makes it super easy for the permitting departments. It's just, we have advanced to the point where we can do this sort of thing. But yet our government bureaucracies a lot of times are lagging behind. And it's not even lagging behind 5-10 years. It's lagging behind, decades. So let's try to get them up to speed and into the 21st century so that we can make these things a little quicker.
This next one really, I think, strikes a nerve in Hawaii County, because I know so many thousands and thousands of people that have in their backyard some unpermitted structure. Maybe it's a shed, maybe it's a second room, maybe they bought the place with it being unpermitted, and maybe their neighbor is mad at them or something and goes snooping around and then tattles to the department that they have an unpermitted structure. So now the department's required to send out an inspector, right? And they have to send out a notice of violation that says you have to fix this unpermitted structure by a certain date, lest you start racking up some sort of civil fines. And now it's neighbor against neighbor. Well, there was actually one neighbor on Hawaii County last year, I think, who I don't know why he or she did this. Nobody knows who it was, but they went through and looked and found 150 unpermitted structures across multiple properties and reported it to the department. So now the department has to go and basically inspect and attack these people. So why don't we have a fast track? Why aren't we making this easier? Right now there is a process to permit unpermitted structures, but it's twice as expensive, 3 times as expensive, depending on where you are, and it still takes a long time. But there should be some kind of amnesty program. We should be making it easier to get these things permitted, not harder. So there actually have been amnesty programs across the U.S., and so we studied that.
Yeah, I want to point out too that a lot of people, it's not that they're not getting permits because they have some nefarious plan and they want to just have an unsafe building and want to have unpermitted. It's these wait times. Quite frankly, I mean, the average person can't wait that long for a permit. In a lot of cases, I mean, it's weeks, months, and can be years. So, folks are just taking matters into their own hands and they're creating these unpermitted structures. And I hear from council members all the time, that at the counties, we need to know what is on our properties. We need to know exactly what is happening. Well, we're not giving these homeowners proper incentive to get these homes up to snuff and get them permitted. If you're charging 2-3 times what an actual building permit is, as a homeowner, you're going to stay under the radar. Exactly. So, I mean, we need to really look intrinsically and see, what we're thinking, and if we really want to get these units permitted, how can we do it with as little to no skin off of people's backs as possible?
Right, so like in California, they have an amnesty program they created that basically says if you get an inspector, if it passes an inspector, then it basically passes the permitting process. Pretty simple. They also prioritized those structures that people were already living in and so on. And so, and different states do it differently, so.
So this is another big one that we've seen in other places like Honolulu and Maui as well, but allowing third-party review and third-party permits. So, Hawaii's permitting process, as Joe mentioned, a lot of times we don't have the staff, quite frankly, to keep up with the demand. Well, there's plenty of private companies out there that can look and review these permits. Like I said, Maui is currently doing this with a company called 4Leaf to try to expedite permitting on Maui after the Lahaina fires. I think if you compare the numbers, 4Leaf actually has a 51-day average. Once you put in your permit with 4Leaf, it takes 51 days to get approved. You do that same process with the county, it's 206 days. So, to us, this is something that not necessarily to completely eliminate government employees in the process, but this is a proven method that has been shown to make the process quicker. 4Leaf and these other private companies again, have an incentive to turn these permits around. Whereas sometimes the folks at the counties don't, quite frankly. So, trying to find more ways to use similar systems.
Yeah, so I visited this town called Johns Creek in Georgia, and I visited the permitting department. And I asked the permitting director, how long on average does it take to get things permitted in this town? He said, oh, maybe a day, maybe 2 days, tops. He's like, I once saw it 5 days, I said, what about a big, complicated thing like a hospital? He said, oh, maybe a month. I said, wow, and then when I started telling him about our permitting wait times, he just could not stop laughing. So I asked him, how is it that you're able to permit things so quickly? And he said, well, we just hire a private company whenever we start to get a backlog. And so, we start to go to 3 days or 4 days. Okay, bring the company in, bring the troops in. They clear out the backlog. And then when the backlog is cleared, then the company goes away and it leaves it back to the civil service workers. Now, in Hawaii, we have a law. And there was basically the law says that you can't hire private workers to do a job that is typically done by government workers. And there was a big lawsuit about this called the Kono decision here in Hawaii County, having to do with waste workers. And so in any case, that law is the law of the land. That's why it's very difficult to hire private companies from the government side. But the law has a loophole. And the loophole says that if you don't have enough government workers to do the job, then you can hire the private company. And that's exactly the situation that the permitting departments are in. They don't have, they themselves say, the audits say that they don't have enough government workers. So why not just hire a private company? That's a little bit how they hired the private company in Lahaina. So if they could do it there, why not in other places? So this is doable as long as people are able to think creatively about this. So.
Yep. Yeah, so if you couldn't tell, I'm a pretty tall guy. I love basketball, right? And I've gone to the Maui Invitational a bunch. And I just wanted to pose a hypothetical for you guys. If you ever go to a basketball game, team tips off, and then the one team just sits there and holds the ball for the entire game. How horrible of a game would that be? No score, the game just ends 0-0.
It's okay.
There's a reason why in basketball you have what's called a shot clock. To make sure that the game is moving along at a proper pace, teams are actually trying to put the ball in the hoop. We just want to create something similar here in Hawaii. Expedite the process when it comes to DPP or the permitting departments, and just say, look, you have to get a permit out in X amount of days. You have a lot of other states. Florida does this. Arizona does this. I think California might even have a shot clock as well. So this is not reinventing the wheel. This is really just telling the bureaucrats in the permitting departments, you have 60 days, 90 days, and if you don't get the permits out in that allotted time, there are penalties. You can't just sit on a permit for a year and not do anything with that. So, we think that this is a really viable option. I mean, it works in basketball. Why can't it work in the permitting department?
And yeah. And for the final one, fees, just a quick note about this. Fees over time have gotten worse, much worse. They've increased much faster than inflation, for example. And so why? It's already expensive. We're trying to make housing less expensive, not more. Now, the thing about fees and shot clocks and third party and all the different recommendations is that they go together. They can actually go together. Mm-hmm. So you can say, here's a shot clock that if you don't do it in time, then you reduce the fees, right? Or if you don't do it in time, then there's no fee, for example.
Automatically approved.
Automatically approved, right. Or you could have a shot clock that says if you don't do it in time, then you can hire a third-party reviewer to approve it or something. So all of this stuff actually are components that can work together in a coordinated policy that can work for different jurisdictions around Hawaii. So But yes, we need to reduce the fees. So basically, unless you had anything to add there,
No.
yeah. So basically, that's the summary of our report. 7 simple ideas to reform the permitting departments. And now we want to hear from you. I think every single person here has some kind of a horror story or something to share.
It's almost Halloween.
Yeah, it's almost Halloween, or maybe some suggestion, or maybe a question too. We'd love to hear from you.
And if you're not already signed up for our newsletter, you can scan this QR code here. I know a lot of you probably are already, but if you are not, you can get all of our up-to-the-date information, like these our newsletters or these policy briefs or whatnot. So
Let's hear it for Joe and Ted. And now let's hear from you. Come on up here, John, and you take the microphone, or Joe, you hold it for John over here. And the only thing I'd like to ask you to do is just keep your comments brief, if you would. Introduce yourself and briefly tell us your story. John.
I was sitting over here, I had a conversation with this gentleman, I don't know his name, but he brought something up that I was surprised wasn't on there, other than the solar thing he touched on, which is he said in other places they have different tracks for permits. In other words, right here, when you submit a permit, if you're building a house or you're doing some tiny little project, they go in the same line. He says in other permitting places they have a different line depending on what the permit it is.
Mm-hmm.
And the lines that are just, there's nothing to it go much faster. So I didn't see that in the slide deck, other than the solar, which we should proposal to have the Solar Act, which is basically that concept.
Great idea for volume 2. Thank you, John.
Absolutely.
Actually, there is a line in Hawaii. It's call the mayor, call the council member, and then then your permit sometimes goes to the top of the line. So.
Yeah, Hilo.
Hi everybody, my name is Dennis Lynn. I'm with HTM Building Supply. Were mentioned before because we do utilize the peer-approved plans through our HTM Homes program, but to give a little bit more clarity on the peer-approved plans, currently in Chapter 5A, which is our administrative construction code, if you do submit a plan as peer-approved, the county, by their own code, is supposed to provide it within 6 days. 6 business days. But what happens with that is that what we haven't talked about today is building code. When the building codes change, there's a time period where all your pre-approved plans are now void because they have to adopt them in code. So it's a great program, but there's going to be times when it's going to be stalled because of those kind of issues.
And if somebody needs to move a window to a different side, then the Kansas will create.
Structural, yes. Any structural changes in your plan do not qualify you for a pre-approved plan. So, yeah. So I just wanted to provide some clarification on that.
Great. Thank you, Dennis. We appreciate that.
I asked a question we had is, there's pre-approved and there's kits. Can you distinguish?
So Dennis knows this.
Yeah, so to
that's
clarify,
why we're
our
asking.
HTM homes, people get confused because they think it's like we're going to package everything together. It's really just a material list. It's a material list that we provide you along with the design plans that's packaged up for your contractor to then build. So that's the clarification there.
That's the kit.
Yeah, that's the packaged home. Yeah.
So it's not a kit.
Yeah, it's not a kit.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not a kit, it's a
Is
package.
pre-approved different from that?
Yes, it's the same plans, but with certain of our home plans we submit through the pre-approved, so that we can help the homeowner build faster.
Both.
Yeah. That's it.
Can I also encourage Dennis to share the manufactured stuff, and then I think you guys are moving a little forward on that at Maui right now, but just kind of that overall understanding what that could be.
Yeah, sure. So HPM also has a program called the Holly Plus Manufactured Homes, which is a factory-built home program. We've been trying to get that program up and running since 2018, but we do run into the same issue that all of you here have here, which is the permitting issue. And we run into an issue where we can't get the permits to produce our product. So it gets hard to provide it to the public. And we are doing it on Maui, but it's more of an emergency kind of situation to get people into homes. We do have an agreement between the two departments of public works on Maui and here on Hawaii Island.
Very good. Thank you, Dennis. Appreciate that. Yes, go ahead.
This fact,
Come on up. Come on up.
Okay.
I'll give you the microphone
We
here.
got 2 seconds. Thank you.
Go ahead, Dave.
First of all, I'm with the Poly Holly Association. We design basically climate resilient housing that resists wildfires and makes their own water and also handles high amount of wind. We use and work with HPM, and we have built plan sets that use this particular technology that we developed. We went through the permitting process for pre-approval, got our duplex units all the way through the process, and then when it was come time at the very end of the road, it was like, oh, well, the building code says singular dwelling, not dwellings plural. So the whole thing was just a waste of effort in terms of trying to get it through there. But I think the thing that I was going to address these guys was, is this applicable also fast tracking particularly or shot clocking for the planning department?
For shot clocking, yeah. So that's something. The shot clocks are something that you can really put it for anything, but it's been specifically for permitting. But I think you could certainly do it for planning as well. I mean, it's a policy decision that the councils have to really take into account, and it's really something that they're going to have to make that decision on if they want to kind of tie their
So
hands.
you guys are going to tell us what we can do to help you get that done.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and first thing is really signing up for our newsletter. That's where we give you up-to-the-minute alerts. We also have an Instagram page that, is probably more up-to-date on everything because we try not to spam you when it comes to our newsletter. We try to make sure we're only sending you stuff maybe once, twice a week tops. Whereas our Instagram, we're posting 2-3 times a day. So that's really where you can get some of the most up to date info.
Are you going into the government offices, or are you the guy that does that?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Good job.
Thank you. Freddie, careful. There we go.
Sorry, easy.
Aloha, I'm Freddie Noah. I am in real estate investments and development. My company is Blue Rock Partners and Terramasa Capital. I want to thank all of you for coming and thank you guys. These are great initiatives, and all these things we're talking about here, they're critically important. They're challenges. But this stuff that we're talking about that reduces the time to permitting and significantly drops the cost of development, which allows us to do relevant projects that make a difference in our communities. This isn't shut the door if we can't get legislation. So my encouragement is, come on. I'm also on the board here. Come along with us. Join the movement. Not only are you in the offices and building arguments to impact legislation, but it takes a fortune. So we need capital, you guys. Come, give whatever you can. Just come alongside us. Let's invest together to make a difference, to impact legislation that's critically important. There are no free lunches. Thank you.
Thank you, Freddie. Really appreciate that. And Freddie speaks from the heart. He's put his money where his mouth is, actually. And he's one of many people who are making it possible for us to have a team, for us to be able to do the work. And we would love to have you as partners. Come on up here, Matt. We'd love to let you use the phone. Sir.
I worked in the county planning environment for 33 years, on a side, both sides. My career ended just as happening. The online process started. So I only know the permitting system when it was a big application. But some of the problems I saw was really big fences over now. Designers putting cover sheet. That big thing. You don't need a freaking cover sheet that looks pretty. Rip that off. Second sheet. Put the damn site plan on the top sheet if you want to save time. Third, get the correct DMK number. I've seen that. Wrong TMG number.
Been no ranks.
Yeah. Wrong TMG. Guy comes in, local guy. Hey, you know the problem with this plot plan? It's not your land. Your designer put the wrong plot plan for another project. And you paid for it. That's private sector, you guys. Hey, building clerk, senior building clerk, now retired. I've got this so many complaints about a building permit process. Now, you see that step over there? Those are issued and approved plans with issued and approved building permit numbers. The licensed contractor didn't pick them up because they're so busy, they overbook. It's a good time to make money, and they overbook. They got too much work to do, so they leave them in the corner until they're ready to pick them up, and then they blame the county. Any of that sound familiar? So that's the other side of the story.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Who else has something to share? Come on up. I'm sure you're learning a lot.
Pleasant. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Ted Rodenhurst. I'm a licensed civil engineer, former director of public works for the county from 2020 to 2022, and current candidate for County Council District 5. So I've seen how this permitting process works. I've been in that office. I appreciate the information you guys shared. In fact, some of this information I saw years ago and some of the things that we were trying to implement at Public Works. Mahalo for that, because there is both two sides, actually three sides, right? There's that side, this side, and the truth, right? So some of that happens. I've seen that before. I've seen people that are stoked how strict the process is because it saved them from having something bad happen to their dream. Because that's what a permit is, right? It's someone's hopes and dreams, it's their future, it's their life, it's their retirement that they're putting forward in the community for their next generation, or for this their reward for all the hard work they put in their life. They're living here and this is what they want to do with it. So it's not just a piece of paper. But I understand what we have here today, and I really appreciate all the information. There's a lot of things we can do to make this better. I'm all for this. There's a couple other things I would like to see. Some things like you talk about reducing the workload. Let's get federal and state plans out of the system. Why are we looking at that? Some of the folks don't need to have that reviewed by the county. They have engineers, they have designers that already do the work that's already managed by those state agencies or federal agencies. Let them handle it. Don't put the county that's already overburdened with more stuff. And same with all these other ones. I mean, I really appreciate the information. And it's stuff that I already was working on when I was director, stuff I want to work on if elected. And if I'm not elected, I'm still going to be fighting for it because I live in Puna. You want to talk on permanent structures? I live in Puna. So I'm all for it. So I appreciate it. Appreciate everyone. Anyone has any questions, I'm around. All right. So.
Wishing that Shay. Anyone else? This is great. Me.
Over here.
Come on up. Come on, push. We want to hear you. Go ahead and take the mic. Aloha to you. Tell us who you are.
I used to do a radio show on the mainland where I didn't have to see people. So anytime to look at people and talk is a much more difficult thing. They should just turn away.
You're doing great. You're doing great.
My name is Cher. I talked to you quite a bit, Joe, when we were sitting at the table there. One of the things that is most important to me is the unpermitted structure living in Lower Puna, because there are so many of them. And that grandfathering, I understood back in '06 there was a program already in place that fell by the wayside. If that's going to happen again, and tying that in with my love of tiny homes and alternative waste systems, if that could somehow tie in with fast track, streamlining, no permit necessary, composting toilets and alternative running water systems, as opposed to drilling through solid blue lava to put in septic tanks and things like that. That would make it so many more people could live freely and not be afraid of getting caught doing something they shouldn't. I think that would be a theme on living on lava.
Terrific.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Thank you.
I don't know if everyone kind of knows how we do things at Grassroot, but basically we have 45,000 people on our newsletter list that read our material, and I welcome. And we occasionally drive those thousands of people to activism. So if you're wondering, like, what's going to be done after this, right? There's going to be a lot, and, but you gotta subscribe to the newsletter first. But okay, here's Daniel.
Hey, yeah, I've been doing building permits for Hawaii County for 32 years, and I just want to bring up a real bad issue is when they instituted EPIC, which was a great idea, and it is progress. At the same day as instituting EPIC, the county canceled 40,000 building permits. Building permits the county approved, and then they're wondering why is this such a glut? Because they made all those people reapply. Suddenly you got 40,000 permits they already did, and they want them to resubmit at the same time as everything else. And this comes down to the fact that the one portal, like someone was saying right now, there's only one portal to update anything in EPIC. Even pre-approved houses are taking what, 2 months, 3 months for the clerk to even notice they're in EPIC. So it's supposed to be a fast process because of one front door, whether it's a toilet or an office building or a solar permit, it goes in the same front door, and they're backed up to at one point 6 months. You submit something in EPIC, and 6 months later, say, oh, we've accepted your plans. And part of that is because they rejected 40,000 building permits back when they first started. The problem we're having now is all these people are finding out their permits were canceling.
Sure.
They're calling for building inspections, or they're trying to sell the house, so they call for a final. The county then says, oh, well, your permit's expired, you gotta reapply. People are calling me every day. How do I reapply for my permit that I already have? You're screwed, because you've got post and pier foundation, you've got 4-foot uncentered trusses with purlings and no plywood. And the county said, well, we just have to reapply. Yes, you have to tear off your roof, you have to redo your foundation. Like, these houses were approved by the county. Now they're telling them, so we expired these, now you have to re-permit with today's present code. And that's the problem, the conflict of as-built. Things are already. They're not even letting people build their houses that they actually permitted.
Right.
They're making them tear them down because they can't be permitted now, and the county approved them for a permit. So how are they going to approve people who built without a clue, without a permit? That's right. But the main thing is there needs to be separate portals. There needs to be a portal in EPIC for solar. There needs to be a portal in EPIC for household remodel. So we ask something for replacing a water heater that doesn't go into a new hospital and an apartment building. They're all in the stack, all in the same order. And that's not the way to get things done quickly.
Very good.
Thanks.
Very good.
Daniel, thank you. Very good comments.
It's also
Appreciate that.
problem with it getting out the other end, not be waiting a month for a plaque.
How about that?
Yeah, there was a gentleman in Hawaii County, Shazad Alsun, who was in that exact situation, Dave, that you mentioned. It was in the papers. I'm sure you all have heard of it. And you know the day before his permit was canceled by the EPIC system, along with 40,000 other people, as you mentioned. To me, that sounds like someone might put a class action lawsuit together to correct that problem.
Attention.
We just need to find out who all those people are, is the problem.
A lot of those people don't even know that they're.
Some of those people don't.
We'll be interviewing Mr. Ausland tomorrow, and you'll hear his story as we circulate it. But the shocking thing is that there are so many people who don't yet know, as Daniel pointed out, that they lack this permit, and they're not going to know until they've got a real estate transaction or they've got something that they need to do, and time is of the essence. And this is, hopefully we're not going to ultimately have an epic failure.
Get already out.
Well, this has been wonderful hearing from you. Any last one or two individuals before we close with the mic? Come on.
My name is Bob. I'm an electrical contractor. And they have building permits that include electrical, plumbing, and all that. And they have sometimes just electrical permits and just plumbing permits. And most electrical permits where you're rewiring the house or changing the meter doesn't require drawings. So you'll apply for it, you'll get your initial uptake approved, but then you have to wait for the plan review on permits with no plans. I mean, it was through the process, they just, once they do the initial update, everything is perfect, they can issue the permit. And one other thing is, this is more of a state thing. but they accepted a code that has nothing to do with building in Hawaii. You have to build for snow lobes now. And that's ridiculous. It needs to be changed. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Wonderful. Well, we really appreciate what you shared. And come on up, sir. We'll let you close it up.
You get the nail on the head. I get the impression that the building code is more about selling building materials than it is about safety in your life. I had a friend that was in a building, Shell Island, and he said the Simpsons hospitality suite used the word Xanadu. So these things are lavish hospitality suites, and they're selling their products to the people that are going to go. Never use 1 volt and 5 volt of. And there's only, yeah. I looked at the guy next door, the stuff he had. There's like, on the porch, they had these tie downs that cost like $50 a piece on each post. And he had like 2 or 3. I mean, this is nuts. And now, the shitting on the roof. Because they get 10 feet of snow in California. Or a hurricane someplace. Like this. It's nuts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, everybody, I really appreciate your spending time with us. Oh, one last one. We're going to fit you in. Come on up. Come. But as the gentleman is coming up, I just want to remind you that we would love to get your feedback. If you fill out a card, you can take a snapshot of that, and it's online. Or we have some paper cards for you. Love to hear what you thought about today, as well as would love to invite you to become a partner of the Grassroots Institute. So just fill something out and turn it in. And last comment.
Aloha.
Aloha.
My name is Melvin Wilson, born in Arizona, and experience in business. The business in China, Japan, Sweden, 5 other states. And home here, born and raised here. And we trace the genealogy back pretty far. It's the most difficult place to do business. The worst. Okay. The thing is that not class action, should get mass action.
Stop.
What we gotta do is literally put a pilot program together through an executive order and literally privatize the planning and permitting department. Take it out of the hands of the government. The push that has been done, like the state HCDA and the Hawaii Community Development Authority, which I know they're gonna open up one in Maui because of Lahaina. My family lost 8 houses to businesses. My failure there is most of losing friends. I think here, most of the things, even when I build, I ask for forgiveness, not permission. But, like video, picture, do everything, do instructions, everything. And just pass it on to them. The part that comes out to this, said uncle, yeah, I know you came from. But back then, we got too much contractors and everybody planning work. But we're stuck. A lot of kind of stuff like that. The things that we need to do is we need to privatize smaller government. That's, and the part that can be done, the executive order, the housing executive order went through. I wrote it in 3.5 years ago. I submitted to Mitch. The problem he did was giving it to Josh Green, put it in the state level. It was state and county level because the county is the one that manages things. But the misappropriation management, and pretty much what I was saying is right. The politics, it's about materials, with the codes. I build in other places, and it's not as bad as here. But I do remember back in the 90s, one of the things, and I'll share this, we talked about, the fancy paper on the first page. What I did in the past, back in the 90s, I wasn't a contractor back then, I was an agreementer. And I was homeowner builders that came in as a manager of the project. And I walked in and walked out with the plan stamp. And the reason how I did it is because literally on the first page, the plot plan, I had the architect literally take position with the engineers and drew 2 squares where signatures could be done by the engineers, 1 block. The second block was all the utility companies. Every utility company has an engineer. And I had all of them sign off. And they went over the plans before I went in to get the plan stamped. I had all the private side already done before going in. And it never carried on because there was a niche that I saw that I created, and I built a lot. But the part that comes down, I think that the real big push is we got to do it through executive orders. And Mitch nothing to do. I already talked to Mitch about this. He already screwed up when I gave him the emergency housing block emergency plan and gave it to Josh. That's the wrong thing he did. And I told him, I said, I give you a lot of money, more money than most people, but yet you're not gonna get my vote. He won't get my vote. The thing different is that we gotta let the county not even be in the housing, developing in Section 8 housing. We don't need more Section 8, like Susan Coons, I told her. And she's getting $9 million more every year from our taxpayers' money, our property tax money. But yet, it's like, we don't need Section 8, we need Section 9 and Section 13. The things that is not even created in policy yet. All I told him Section 9 is just copy and paste Section 8, take the 8, change it to a 9, go for the AMIs from 140 to 280.
There you go.
That is the people that we have to protect because these are the ones who pay the taxes. And that alone, we shouldn't even be paying taxes. Hawaii houses get built out by U.S. Every year. Before down in Illinois, $9 billion a year. Always getting built out. The thing is that what got to be done too is cutting taxes. Property taxes are getting more. It's going to hit about $1 billion in the next 5 years.
Well, Mel, we love to cut taxes. That was our big thing this year.
So when I went from governor, then cut taxes.
Now, we can go a lot deeper on this, but thank you so much. Give that Mel Mason a big hand. Well, everybody, there's more to say, but we've got to honor the time today. Thank you so much for being here. Well, we really appreciate it, and we'll come over and chat with you over there. Aloha. Thank you.
Thank you.